it was very, French New Wave, where they just used people that were literally also nomads or living in RV parks or whatever to tell their stories on screen, where it almost felt like a documentarian was interviewing them, but just Frances McDormand happened to be in the shot, which I thought was a really cool technique.
What the nomads are doing is not that different than what the pioneers did.
Hey, bird! You gotta make the hole bigger.
What's up, YouTube? Drive-By Movies here, and you are watching
Fresh Releases.
My name is James.
My name is Blaze.
And today we're going to check out the Best Picture winner from the Golden Globes, Nomadland.
And I don't ever say a final goodbye. Let's just say I'll see you down the road. And I do. I see them again. And I can be certain in my heart I'll see you again.
After losing everything in the Great Recession, a woman embarks on a journey through the American West, living as a van-dwelling modern-day nomad. So, James, we've heard a lot about this movie coming out of all the festivals throughout this year. I think most of the festivals were virtual, at-home kind of festivals, but I always remember that this was one of the movies that people were talking about, and I kept asking myself, wait, how do I watch this movie if everyone's already talking about it? It's only like, it was only February last year. I was already hearing people talk about this movie. I was like, wait, how is it going to get released? And then you told me recently, oh, it's already on Hulu. And I just feel like I missed the whole part where you could watch it at home and rent it. Maybe that just escaped me, but whatever. We got to see it on Hulu, so that was awesome. And I have to say, I'll start this. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was almost like just watching a Terrence Malick movie meets a mumblecore movie. And those are the things that I really enjoyed about it. I'm going to get into something a little bit more controversial later, but I'd love you to kick off and say what you thought about the film.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree. Like, I really enjoyed this movie. I remember during the pandemic, I really got into Letterboxd and I got into catching up with my movies. And I remember for a while, this was always on the top most searched or most talked about movies on Letterboxd. It was like on that top page if you have the app, like it's always in that front row and stuff. Now I guarantee it's going to be there for a long time coming now that it just came out on Hulu and now the fact that it won Best Picture at the Golden Globes. But I remember that's how I first heard about it. I was like, how do you watch this movie? And it did have a run at drive-in theaters, and I think it actually did do pretty well for the most part. I just never really got around to checking it out. I only saw a very limited amount of movies at drive-in theaters. But yeah, no, it's on Hulu. I'm glad we got to finally watch it. I do really like this movie and see why it got such great critical praise. There isn't really a whole lot like it. Like, only thing I can really compare it to is Into the Wild, Sean Penn's debut film that he directed a few years, or not a few years, it's actually been over a decade now, but really loved that movie. And I also really love this movie because it's a modern take on it, and just like the fact that like we see like Amazon like warehouse and stuff, like kind of like it feels almost like just a modern capture of our time. Like I said again, like I really enjoy it. I definitely recommend people to check it out. Is it Best Picture material though? No. Really liked it, but no, not Best Picture material. I'm still really bummed that like movie like Promising Young Woman didn't win, and even Judas and the Black Messiah I thought was a much stronger movie than this one. But still saying that Promising Young Woman was my favorite, but definitely still liked this movie, and we'll dive into like what we did like about it and what we didn't like about it.
I do want to preface with what I'm about to say, that this is a very enjoyable movie. I really don't understand why anyone would dislike it. So this isn't coming from, something with a negative intent. But I do think that if there was any year for this film to win Best Picture or this film to be talked about as much as it's being talked about, it's this year because of the drought of great films coming out, or just lack of films in general. I think probably less than great. We found plenty of great movies to talk about last year and this year as well, but I think
even in the last couple of weeks too.
Yeah, easily. So I don't think that there's a lack of great films. I think that there's a lack of films in general, to where this film it makes this film obviously a lot more enjoyable because there's less competition. Easy enough to say, but I do feel like this, if we were to get this film in any other year than this, we would still be talking about it, but I don't think it would be getting as much critical acclaim as it is right now. I thought that it was a very enjoyable film because it takes kind of what I felt like was somewhat of a depressing subject and somewhat depressing subject material, but it makes it very lighthearted and enjoyable. It almost makes you feel like a voyeur on the wall. And one of the most powerful things I felt like was brought through this film, and I think it has to be, given to Chloe Zhao's direction, was basically how this film felt like a documentary. It's obviously not, but it feels so much like a documentary with how many people they use that were just, it was very, French New Wave, where they just used people that were literally also nomads or living in RV parks or whatever to tell their stories on screen, where it almost felt like a documentarian was interviewing them, but just Frances McDormand happened to be in the shot, which I thought was a really cool technique, something that we've seen in the mumblecore movement before. So it's nothing that was breaking new ground by any means, but it was very refreshing to see a movie like that and everyone talking about it, because it feels like I can't get people to stop talking about this movie. Almost everywhere I turn, people are talking about how much they love Nomadland. And I do think that this is a great film, and I agree with you. I don't know if it's best picture material. We're talking about Oscars. Obviously anything can be Golden Globe best picture material, because there's 2 best pictures, I think, at Golden Globe, correct?
Yeah, and I guarantee Sacha Baron's not winning shit at the Academy Awards. Yeah, I'm still very surprised about that, and but whatever. I mean, just goes to show, Golden Globes. I'm glad that it's the second best award or something for movies. I always found it entertaining. I love Ricky Gervais's monologue from a couple of years ago and stuff, but that's a whole other subject. But yeah, I always kind of laughed at the joke that there's they have to find 5 to 10 movies for drama and then 5 to 10 movies for comedy. Just at that point, you're just give everything a nomination and stuff. And
I'm just gonna be forward. I hate the Golden Globes. Honestly, I wish they'd cancel the Golden Globes just because it's just a stupid. I don't know. It's another stupid awards show. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. If you hate award shows, you're going to hate the Golden Globes, because that is the dumbest awards show. I feel like
that one feels like it's more of a popularity contest, honestly, the Golden Globes. Yeah.
I feel like, 100% it's just total popularity contest. Everyone can win a Golden Globe, essentially. They're just giving it to their best friends or whatever. I don't know exactly how I don't think that the rewards are rigged or anything, but if they were, it wouldn't really matter, essentially.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I think that I'm not talking about whether anyone Chloe Zhao's deserving of a Golden Globes or anything. I do think this film was very enjoyable. I think the competition this year probably wasn't as much. I don't think necessarily there's anything wrong with this movie. I thought it was awesome how it made you see a side of America that you usually don't see. This is kind of the underbelly in a sense. And I think it really gave me On the Road vibes. And like you said, Into the Wild. That's the only other film I could put up there. Into the Wild is one of my favorite movies. So I definitely enjoyed it in the same sense. This is the style of movie I like. But this was very Terrence Malick kind of approach, very artfully shot. All the cinematography was absolutely incredible. I loved the use of voiceover and narration, somewhat narration, but also the way that the interviews of these actual nomads was kind of playing over, beautiful artistic shots. I thought that this is a very interesting film. I'm not totally familiar with Chloe Zhao's previous work. I know she did a film, I think, called The Rider, which I was interested in seeing those trailers. I remember I couldn't avoid that trailer the year it came out. I felt like it was at every single movie. And I was always interested in it because it didn't have any stars in it or anything. It was about a bull rider. And I remember it looked really interesting. So watching this film definitely made me want to go back and revisit and check out that movie.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely excited. I know that her next movie is something that we can care less about. We've said it multiple times, and I don't want to hound it down even more, but she's doing Marvel's The Eternals. Congrats for her for making a lot of money for that. But just like definitely interested to see the writer, and I really liked how this movie came about. Apparently this was shot in between the Eternals, like every chance she got in between like pre-production filming, like she was working on this movie and stuff. So I love that this was definitely a passion project that she really wanted to make work out and stuff. I know that this is based off a book, and I don't know if like the narrative of Frances McDormand's character is based off of that, but there were little techniques in this that I really appreciated. Just the fact that every character is kind of playing a character based off of their name, or like I know a lot of characters are just playing themselves straight up. I did more research on it, but really liked that fact is that they try to keep it as real as possible and just feeling natural. And with the interviews, it definitely feels that way too. I can see that not being a style that a lot of people are able to accept. So this is probably the first time a lot of people are seeing a movie in that form of style, where they're interviewing people like by breaking the fourth wall and then seeing them go into like character mode for the narrative part of this story. But like, yeah, I know I've seen it in some mumblecore movies. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but like, it's cool to see that in a mainstream movie now, just because everyone has access to this. Like, Hulu's not as big as Netflix and stuff, but it's the next rival. Like, whenever anyone thinks of like what are the top streaming, it's Netflix and Hulu neck and neck that are competing against each other and stuff. So like, I hope to see Hulu getting more movies and stuff. Like, I liked Palm Springs. I'm glad that they acquired that from, I believe that came from South by Southwest, and I assume this came from Sundance last year, maybe Cannes. I'm not positive, but like, I know that this was popular during the film festival rounds and stuff. So I'm glad that Hulu really was going for those instead of like, going for like the next big director's next movie, or like, the Russo brothers side project that they're working on and stuff.
The
like,
Warriors or whatever.
Yeah.
If that ever comes to fruition. I know that they wanted to make the Warriors, but I feel like we were talking about that like 4 years ago. Like, shouldn't we have that on our doorstep already?
I'm pretty sure that was for Hulu also at some point.
Maybe
that's going to Paramount Plus now. So.
Oh, this is still getting made? Hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll check it out when I am excited for Paramount Plus, so I'll check it out when that comes out. But I'm gonna be a day one subscriber. I just want you to know that. SpongeBob is coming out day one. I'm gonna be there this Friday, or last Friday if you're watching this video.
I knew it. Yeah.
So
yeah, but that pretty much concludes my thoughts. Anything else, Blaze?
Yeah, I did enjoy seeing David Strathairn in this. I thought like, yeah, he's an actor that we don't see that often, but I always enjoy his performances. Like, he's just a very subtle kind of character actor that I always enjoy. And this was I didn't know he was in this movie, so it was a pleasant surprise, because I think besides him, the only other like celebrity in this movie is Frances McDormand. So this is just a nice, quaint film. I really can't see anyone disliking this movie. Honestly, it's definitely worth the watch. If you have Hulu, go check this movie out. It's exclusive on there currently. It'll probably open up to other places at some later date, but go check it out if you have Hulu. This film is definitely worth the watch.
Yeah, absolutely. After doing that, come back here, leave a comment letting us know what you thought about the movie itself. Let's keep the conversation going. Also, if you haven't, a great way to help us out is by smashing that like button. And if you're new to us, subscribe and hit that notification bell to get all of our latest updates.
And if you guys haven't already, go check us out on all social media platforms. We're on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, your favorite social medias, we're on there. Anyways, guys, that concludes this week's episode of Fresh Releases. Tune in next week for a brand new video.